Welcome to the Warren Cycling Podcast. My name is Dean Warren. I'm in Wiesbaden, Germany today.
And I'm Randy Warren, and I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
All right. We have the Super World still going on in Scotland, which is, it's really cool that it's still going on because I went to the men's road race, which was very early in the Worlds this past Sunday. And even before the road race, we had some nice track results. And now we had the time trial, which came after the road race, which usually it's before the road race.
Yeah.
And it's still going on. We still have the women's race. So it's really, I got back and I'm thinking, I have a feeling like it's over, but it's not. It's still going on. Although I haven't been following the track as much as I saw a little bit of the Madison, the women's Madison, just because I don't know if I've ever watched a Madison before.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And I think I watched an earlier event of the women's track too, but I think some of the track events have been pretty exciting.
Well, I knew Chloe was a favorite for the individual pursuit, so I watched her win live. But I didn't watch Jennifer Valente win either of her two gold medals live. But I watched them the same that day. Some of them. Well, the Omnium, you have to watch 4 events if you want to see that.
I think I watched an event with Jennifer Valente. I think it was, I can't remember. One that she didn't win, but I watched a replay of Chloe winning the individual pursuit, which was so impressive because she lapped her final in the final. She caught, yeah. Well, lapped. She caught because right. But
she was a second, and she looked like she was on pace to maybe get the world record, but she had to pass the person. She caught the person in the corner, and so
almost at the end though.
Yeah,
but it was pretty close.
But you have to go a lot longer, so she missed the world record by a second. And then we found out later on that she was sick. After that, between that and the World Time Trial Championship. So you said I think you said on the text,
I don't know when she got like a cold. She got sick, but
upper respiratory infection. I think they didn't do as well in the team pursuit. Right, they were one of the favorites to win, and they got 6th, I think, or something.
6th,
right?
But their final time looked like was the
better than
second best time.
I think so. Yeah.
So, but they just maybe if she was getting sick like after her individual pursuit, it was affecting her performance during the team pursuit, and then she's been quoted as saying had the individual time trial been one day earlier, she wouldn't have been able to start. So she wasn't at her best, but not at her best. The talent that she has was still the best in the women. But the women's field was Annemiek van Vleuten. She didn't even race, did she? Did she do it? I didn't even see her. She must have been way down because she's been very dominant, but she's not been up to her usual self this year. Demi Follering is maybe surpassed her as being the top rider this year. Well,
maybe, but Annemiek won the Giro. Donna, so she's still a good year. She just didn't have a good tour, and that's hurt her a lot in terms of field's perception of how she's been doing. But Grace Brown though came remarkably close
very close
to Chloe, and that's and no disrespect to Grace at all, but usually she would not be 6 seconds back, and so that was a surprise that she was that close to her. And so, and Chloe said it was 16 kilometers too long. So she said she was really, really hurting the last 16K. And Grace brought
16
back
too long. It was a 30. How long was it?
36.
But I think the longest time trial I saw before then for the women in any event this year in any race was closer to 26 maybe. So it was at least 10 kilometers longer than any they've done this year. And the men's ones were really long too. Yeah,
they both were really long. So that is for sure. Yeah, I don't see any name in the results at all here. So she must not have, which is a little weird. I think she might have been on the list and she pulled out between the end of the Tour de France, the women's Tour de France and Worlds. I think
Tour de France from Avec Swift. I think how they refer to that race.
I think she said she wasn't at her best, and I think she might have given her time trial spot to someone else because of course the Dutch. Actually, it's so unusual that they didn't have anybody on the podium. You know, so it was United States.
Grace Brown, Australian, and then Austrian, right?
Yeah, Christina Scheinberger. Yeah. Yep. And then Anna Henderson was next. And then Juliet Loos from Netherlands, and Demi Vollering was the first Dutch woman in 6th place.
Wow.
So,
yeah. But one of the favorites of Marie Russler, the Swiss. She anchored the team event.
She crashed.
But she crashed, and so she was probably hurting from that crash. But the Swiss won the team, so she did get a
World Championship. Yeah.
But I guess you never get a chance to wear that jersey because there's not any team time trial events like that during the season where you get to wear your rainbow jersey, right?
For a little while there was a mini series of races where they were trying to like spice up racing for the television audience, and they had a team time trial event in that series. But I think it was 2 men and 2 women.
Wasn't that one of the Valon series?
Yeah, I think so.
They were like trying to. That kind of fizzled out. I haven't heard any more from whatever that was, but yeah.
She said though I saw her interview or read an interview, but she said that she's not been right since the end of the Tour de France Feminine whatever it is, and it was no break between that and the Worlds, and she needs to have a little bit of downtime between major events to be able to get herself back together for the next event. And so it was very hard for her to go straight from that to Worlds, but she didn't want to let her team down and her coaches down. And so she said, I'll just go anyway. And it just wasn't happening. She said from the very start of the time trial, she knew she didn't feel right. And then from the very start, it just didn't go right.
She's had a good year. She won the Tour de Suisse women.
Yes.
Marie Russler. And she also won a stage at the Tour de France Femme avec Swift.
Yeah.
So, no, well, I mean, of course, we're Chloe Degert fans. This is American fans. And she, Grace Brown was further down on the checkpoints, but not so far, and it ended on a climb. So it was a little touch and go there to see the finish. And
Grace was second last year, I think, too. And last year was the first year she was on the podium, and she said that she was surprised that she was on the podium last year, so she was happy with that. This year, she was very disappointed that she didn't get the win because, it was for different perspective, right? Second place last year, hey, what a great race. Second place this year, I didn't do it.
Right. Well,
I was interesting to see too that hardly anybody picked Chloe to be a winner, and I she won in 2019.
And then had a horrible crash in 2020, and she should have won.
Yeah, and she was on the pace to win then too.
And then she would have, had she not had that crash, she might have won everyone since then, being dominant. But I don't know about the Epstein-Barr that she had, the little heart. Yeah. If those would have figured in, or everything changed from the crash, or who knows.
It certainly seems like she's on good form now, and I think she did not do the Tour de France Feminine was with whoever, but she but because she wanted to prepare for the World Championships, so she didn't do that as preparation, and so maybe that took her off people's radar, perhaps.
Maybe, but really her focus is not as much this World Championship, but the Olympics next year. So
yeah, but does
that qualify her for the Olympic team, or I don't know? Amber Nabin was 8th.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing, and she's 48 now. So
yeah,
Chloe's 26, right?
How old was Kristen Armstrong when she won her last?
You thought 48. It's her birthday today.
Oh, is it really?
So when we do birthdays, she's 50.
But 50 now. She's 50 now. So she's just 2 years older than Amber.
Yeah.
So if she won 4 years ago, 3 years ago, she was.
And then so like Anna Vandenbergen, who was in the car, she's with Netherlands team, but she's probably just over. Is she even 30? I mean, she retired pretty young, so
she's 33, I think.
it's a huge commitment to be a bicycle racer. So it's not for everyone for life.
And Kristen Armstrong had children during the time that she was in that.
She took breaks, yeah.
Yeah, she'd take breaks. She'd have a kid, take a couple years off, come back, win the time trial at Olympics.
She won. Well, she won the Olympics in 08, 12, and 16. World Championships in 06 and 09.
Yeah. So 16. She was
16 would have been 7 years ago. Yeah. So
yeah.
She wasn't like Amber. Amber won later, right?
I look and see. But you know what? Here's Amber. So I'm going to see real quick.
She
World
won.
champion in time trial. 16 was the last time she won in 08. 08 and 16 were 2 times.
Okay. So she won the same year Kristen Armstrong won the Olympics, but Amber Namen's 2 years younger than Kristen. So anyway, okay, we're kind of going a lot on interesting racing, and especially the women have been getting the most medals. Jennifer Valente probably deserves as much to talk about.
Yeah,
she's the most. Right. Sarah Hammer was beforehand, but now Jennifer Valente, who's not done yet. So
no, she's at the peak of her career right now.
Yeah. So super impressive to win the Omnium. I think that's so much. You got to be so consistent, but also to win the scratch race already, and
and she was a bronze in the elimination race too.
Yes, yeah. So that's
2
when
golds and a bronze.
Right. I think that race put her at the most decorated U.S. women's track athlete, or any track athlete from the U.S. But this is episode 331. I'd like to spend a little time talking about the men's road race because I was there, and it was pretty exciting race. And we tend to focus anyway mostly on the men's road racing as our maybe that we're most following, I guess.
Yeah. The men's press too, for sure.
Individual time trial was today. Not anything big surprise, except for I think Brandon McNulty is the biggest surprise to be 4th today in the team or in the individual time trial.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe even a bigger surprise was Joshua Tarling getting third.
Josh Tarling. Yeah, well, I guess I'm not as surprised because I heard him tip to someone to watch, but I mean, I think
19 years old.
Yeah, he was only 19. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I think Remco Evenepoel is the youngest time trial world champion, but the world championships for time trial only started in 1994, I believe. I saw with was it Graham Obrey? Who is the other guy that was set the hour record? Chris Boardman. Maybe it was Chris Boardman. But he didn't have a helmet on too. I saw a picture of him. I guess it was a time. I thought, wow, that's crazy. 94. But yeah, so it hasn't been around as long.
He's 23 years old now.
Yeah.
He's young, but before that there used to be a 4-person 100K time trial, a team time trial.
At the World Championships?
Yeah. At the Olympics and World Championships, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy long.
Yeah, so Remco Evenepoel, maybe you think the climb was the difference, maybe the hills, because I think at the first time check, the flatter part, Filippo Ganna was first, had the best time. And then Remco Evenepoel pulled back time on the more hillier, and then the finish. I mean, Remco is just a phenomenal athlete and bicycle racer, and he's still so young. And we'll see him racing at the Vuelta. So he got gypped out of the Giro because of the COVID positive.
Yeah.
He hasn't raced the Tour yet. So I think everyone's really super excited just next year to think about the possibility of having 3 top stars going for the Tour. But that's a long way out. Yeah. So
Garrett Thomas could do it. There'd be 4 Grand Tour winners there, or Teo Gegenhardt. There could be lots of Grand Tour winners there, but for sure, 3 guys who are almost on equal playing level.
Yeah, could really battle each other out. And
yeah.
So.
And then this year the Volta should be pretty good too because Roglic, Roglic, and then Vingegaard
and Vingegaard. Yeah. No, yeah, that starts the 26th in Barcelona with a team time trial, and I do have that trip too. So I'm like really frustrated that I didn't get to the Tour, the biggest race this year. But I've hit the Giro, I hit the World Championships, I hit one of the monuments at the Ronde van Vlaanderen. So it's pretty good. Been a pretty good year for me, just getting trips where I could come to see some of the big races. But the race on Sunday, it started in Edinburgh, and that's where my trip flew to. That's where I worked, but it was a later arrival, and so they were long gone from Edinburgh by the time we got to the hotel. And so I changed really fast, went to the train. It's only like 49-minute train ride, and the train station that you arrive in Glasgow is right next to the finishing area.
Oh, wow.
Right next to the big square where so I was right there when I got off the train. But man, it was lots of people.
Were they already on the circuits when you got there?
They're already on the circuit. Fortunately, I was very fortunate in a way, because those guys glued themselves to the road and they blocked the course, and they had that protest where they had 50-minute delay, which gave me 50 more minutes with exactly the train ride to get to Glasgow, so to be able to see more of the race.
Yeah.
And then also the circuit, which more, you always hear the complaints more than people that say they like it, right? A lot of turns. They compare it like a crit course, but it's say okay, it's a crit course, but how many crits have you ever done that's 14.5-kilometer loop?
Right. Yes.
They're just talking about all the number of turns and that, but so.
But it was rainy and it was sunny, and two crashes. One crash severely impacted the race, and one potentially did when Van der Poel crashed. But yeah, it was right. It had a lot in it.
Yeah, but for me as a fan, I get out of the train, and you never know in big cities like how many people are aware of what's really going on with the race, because it's a big city. People show up. Like in Paris, people are like, "Oh, there's a bike race going on." Or I was in Rome for the last day of the Giro. Oh, what are all these roads blocked for? Oh, the Giro. But Scotland's hosting a really great event, to have all these cycling. I think they prepared. I think most people around there were, excited about watching a bike race. How much they knew, hard to say, but there were definitely lots of fans who were big cycling fans. And so, but I got out, and right in front of me was part of the course, but the course turned so much. I was trying to figure out, okay, I want to get to the Montrose Street climb, because climbs are always like cool places to be, but I was so late getting that I knew I wouldn't get a good position on the climb. So I thought, well, let me see where I can get some pictures here. And because so many turns and so many like the chicanes and that, it wasn't difficult to find a spot where I could get a good head-on view to take some photos, because people weren't like deep all the way around the course. I mean, it's a big enough course that you could spread out people. I mean, there were people most everywhere, but people would some kind of come and go. And so I could get right to the front a little bit, but I was trying to follow which way the course went. It turned so many times around that finish. I was like getting turned around myself, like, oh, and they had certain places you could cross. I wanted to cross. I wanted to get over to the hill, and I don't know if I was as efficient as I could have been, but yeah, I got to the hill before the rain poured. It was predicted to come in around 4 o'clock, I think, local time, and all the people on the hill too. I think most of them were prepared, because they all pulled out jackets and umbrellas when it poured. For a little bit.
If you're in Scotland, you're prepared for rain.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to the cycling podcast that had Larry Warbass on the podcast talking a little bit about the race. And he said because he came right from Poland, so he didn't have much time there. And they stayed out in the country somewhere, and they went for a ride the day before, and he said it rained like most of the ride. So it does rain quite a bit in Scotland. So it was a pretty nice day, and then it did dry off, or stop raining at least. But yeah, like you said, the rain coming down to make the course a little bit slick, and that crash. It was the crash that separated really the top riders that were going to be in the front anyway, I guess. But I think what hurt Nielsen Paulus mostly was that crash, that I think he could have stayed with those guys, because they formed. Actually, he was with him earlier, because wasn't he? Kevin Vermark was. It was a hard, difficult. I went back to watch the race because I was like, what happened when? Because I was trying to follow someone on the app, on this pro cycling apps, and Alberto Bettio when he was out front, okay, and then I was giving the updates to the guys or people around me. Everybody was very friendly, and one guy was watching a little bit, but I don't know if he lost his signal. But I say, okay, Bettio's got this much time. Oh, it's going down, and then all of a sudden, boom, Bettio was dropped, and it was Mathieu van der Poel that was ahead of everyone. It's like, whoa, when did that happen? And then watching it was, right when they caught, yeah, he attacked and got the gap. So, yeah. But going back to Nielsen Paulus, he was behind the crash from Narvaez. Was that Narvaez? Yeah, which caused a split. And he was trying to. Larry even said that he was doing more work than anyone else to try to close the gap, and
he jumped first. Yeah, and he actually had a gap on the guys he was with, and he was within 2 seconds, they said. And then he came back, and then they were chasing as a group after that. But for a little bit, he recognized that it was an all or nothing now, and so he went for it and just couldn't quite get on it.
But Kevin van Aert was riding exceptionally well.
He was in the break, right?
He was in the break, and then he was the last one. Like, he attacked the break. He was off solo, and then he got caught, and he was in a group with the favorites, and he was riding with them, and he was doing very well. The Australian, I have to look up his name.
Well, Australian,
because he ended up he was in the break too, and he finished like 7th. He stayed up there.
Yeah, Matthew Dinham.
Dinham, yeah. So I would think Vermark might have been in the same realm maybe of him, but he had a mechanical, so unfortunately he dropped out. I think the biggest thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Vermark he had a flat. I think he flatted.
Right. Yeah, and he still finished 20th. He was. I think that's right. He said I forget what he lost time, significant amount of time with the flat, and then he thought he was way off the back, and then he realized he finished 20th still. So
yeah, well, that's the nature of the course, though. Which is unusual for most races, where once something happened like that, and like the split or whatever, you're not coming back. That's pretty much it. I mean, it did regroup some during but the racing started so. I mean, the attacks and everything with 140K to go, or like on the circuits.
It was Van der Poel, Van Aert, Pogačar, Pedersen, all off the front, and then they got caught, and then they all front again too.
Yes. So. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy exciting. I mean, super fun to watch. The atmosphere was really, really, really nice. The fans are great. Everybody's polite there. Seemingly live and play. I mean, it's just really nice atmosphere. And afterwards, I went to the fan zone area. They had music playing, and I got something to eat. And I got my picture holding like a frame, kind of, if you saw it on their Facebook post. Yeah, but. I did make a mistake of not trying to get myself over to where the team vehicles were. And as I finally got closer to it, I think I saw the U.S. band pulling away or already leaving. I was like, oh, man, I missed a chance to try to talk. Because I'll tell you the one thing. We were talking a little bit before how combined we've been to like 7 World Championships, I guess. So the only one common one we've been together was the one in Richmond in 2015, but you were before that at the Verona one in Italy, early 2000s, and Hamilton as well in the early 2000s. And then I've been to the Stuttgart one on Alero, which was also in the 2000s. I think Paolo Bettini won that year. And then Innsbruck a couple of years ago. But Innsbruck, I wanted to get up on the big climb. They had a really great climb. That's where, it was Mike Woods and Alejandro Valverde, fighting it out towards, but they closed off that area before I could get up to it because I was somewhere else. They wouldn't let any fans walk up. I just didn't have space. I mean, and then the finish whole area and that I don't know if it was ticketed or whatever, but it was just real hard. You couldn't get close to anything. So this was much better in Glasgow to get around and be closer to the action. And I could walk. I mean, they had different hills more than just that Montrose Street climb, but that was the one that came closer to the finish, and maybe a little more steeper than some of the other ones. But I watched. Well, I was fortunate. Like I said, I couldn't get all the way to like the fence to be close, but I had my GoPro on a pole, and I was able to hey, can I just stick my arm here and hold my GoPro down and everything? Yeah, no problem. And then I had it all the way down almost to the street level, and then I had a little bit up. Just try to get a little bit videos. I did put a video up on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching our podcast on the YouTube channel, you'll see the video where I just kind of put the clips together that I had from. So it's not nothing special, but it just gives you a little bit of feel of how it was to be a fan and see the different places where I was. So yeah,
and how fast they were coming by in some spots, and then on the climb it was a lot slower, obviously, but there's a few spots where they're just zipping by so fast too.
Yeah, and just the energy on the climb was really great too. You had all the Danish fans, and like the one time when Skilmos was going by, they're all chanting Skilmos, Skilmos. Yeah, so yeah. Going back though a little bit, maybe the Paulus, I think they didn't have radios, but he had to know Kevin Mark was up in the break, but it seems like he was attacking or at one time where like, hey, he doesn't need to attack. He needs to just wait until the guys that are going to be making the separate foul of those guys. And then I think he could have probably best gotten fifth, maybe. He could have been maybe the fifth best if he had maybe played everything right. Because I don't think he's quite there with Pedersen.
Yeah.
And of course he's not with Van Aert and
Paulus was with a group of like 3 or 4 with Tom Scoins and someone else was with them too.
And then Schmidt, I think, yeah.
And then they got caught. So Stefan Kung actually got 5th, and he wasn't with that group. And Jasper Stuyven, and actually Jasper Stuyven is one of the few guys who has released his power data. So they've done some power analysis, and Paulus was another guy. So in 5th place, so they talked about incredible power they're doing.
Stuyven put in a lot of power, even on the easier part going, on the lead from Edinburgh to Glasgow. And I got to hear a little bit more about the protests. I mean, we didn't find out like why they were protesting, but they glued themselves to the road, and they're protesting
against the sponsors who are environmentally not so friendly. And that's a continuing thread from the English team being sponsored, Great British team being sponsored by Shell Oil. And so environmentalists have been protesting that ever since they announced that deal, which has been quite a while. And so this is that same theme that the sponsors are heavy polluters. And so they were protesting against that. Yeah.
Well, Larry said they were waiting for the anti-glue truck to come, which they didn't know that's a thing, an anti-glue truck to come get did they glue their skins to the road?
That's what I was wondering.
That's what I wondered. They just pull them out of their clothes, or I don't. But they said it was a big, the fight. Always like positioning was big, and even those like on the circuit, if you were towards the front, it was a lot easier to be up. If you're in the back, and it's just like any crit race, it's always difficult in the back, like. Because the front's already going around one corner and you're still sprinting out of the back one. But
did you see that the Dutch team all took advantage of the break by using
that was
a spectator's restrooms, or actually a person whose house was on the course?
A house, they just renovated it, I think, too. So it was a front page article, I guess, in one of the Scottish.
Oh, okay.
They went out and found the guy and got a picture with the facility, but yeah, but it was a big break. I mean, I think Larry said though, after that when they restarted, everyone was just like sprinting. It was just so hard, and he never recovered from that afterwards. But they were in good position. His job was to keep Paulus up in good position, and it got really narrow in that place close to where they had the stoppage, and they didn't. I guess the UCI president was telling them something about the protest, but they couldn't really see. Someone wanted to go up and like see the guys down the road, but there's always vehicles. So, but it was a great atmosphere. It's still going on. There's still races. The women's race should be really good. Demi Vollering, I guess, Lotte Kopecky is maybe the favorite. She's you got to tip the cyclocross racers more, right? Because of the nature of the course and used to that kind of racing. I mean, that's why Van der Poel and Wout van Aert were going to be up there. But I think it's super impressive for Tadej Pogačar, to be up there like that. I mean, he's amazing. I still like him a lot more, I guess, than Vingegaard because he races the whole year and does different races.
Yeah. And he beat Mads Pedersen, which is in the sprint.
Yeah. Well, he just was sitting on his wheel. I mean,
Mads let it out from a long ways back.
Yeah. I think the Danish made some mistakes by trying to push the race too much when the Belgians were the favorites and they were the ones that should have done
the numbers.
Yeah.
Still.
So I think that's I watch Chris Horner analysis. I mention him a lot too, and he's always looking at tactics. Which okay, fine tactics, but I don't care. I like to see the races exciting. So if people are doing dumb things when they don't need to be, that's fine with me because it makes it more exciting. But he's like, what are you doing, Danish guys? You're wearing out your riders riding on the front when you're just pulling it. And I think it always makes sense too. You want to send guys to attack and then make other teams respond, but not just pull along like the Belgians and save them because they're not.
Sometimes it works. If you tire people out, look on especially tour stages or grand tour stages, or if you have somebody who's been hurting, so later in a race maybe.
Like the Sky used to do, where they just put their guys and they can burn them off on the front, but yeah.
But in this case, so sometimes because it was such a technical course too, you're protecting your guys at the front too, and they don't have to hopefully do a lot of the work then towards the back. But there's definitely a balance, and I think you could say Nielsen Paulus did too much work maybe too.
Oh yeah, I think he could have saved himself more. He had a teammate up ahead that he didn't need to be, and Vermark. Okay, say Vermark doesn't have his mechanical. Say Paulus conserves himself more. Maybe they're both up there in the fight. I mean, at one time, we had Vermark, Lawson Craddock, and Paulus with like 20, 30, guys left. And so I can only imagine these aren't even our best guys coming up. I mean, Luca Lamperti, I mean, we won't have this kind of course, which they don't need to have this course, but every 5-10 years anyway. I like a balance. I like them to change the courses every year anyway. So I don't have any complaints of this course, but no, you need to change it around each year. But Matteo Jorgensen, who is injured, Quinn Simmons, who is injured. These are really good guys. Where the U.S., they don't have that guy that's as good as Pogacar and our Matteo Vanderpool. But those guys are a little older anyway. Our guys are still younger, so I could foresee maybe in a few years the U.S. really maybe. I mean, at least they're figuring in the racing more than just pack fodder. So
yes, definitely.
So that's fun to see.
Vanderpool's 28 and is 28 as well too.
Yeah,
and Paulus is 26.
Right.
Yeah,
but Jorgensen's what, 24?
Yeah, of course.
Simmons 22.
So. 24.
And Evenepoel, like who had a kind of a weird race too. He was towards the back. He was trying to go off the front.
He attacked a lot.
What he was doing. But
hey, it shows he's. I mean, by winning today, it shows he's certainly has the strength. I think that wasn't a good course for him necessarily too, but
no.
Yeah.
There's
a lot. I definitely think you're right though. The Americans can be more in the mix for sure. We've got a younger generation coming up. I mean, Craddock now is he 30 now? He's getting a little bit older.
Yeah, he and Taylor are the same. Yeah, because he and Taylor did junior nationals, and Craddock won everything by like 2 minutes. And I was hoping, okay, this dominant guy, I hope that translates to someone who is a world tour rider, and he has been. So I'm like, okay, he was dominant then. He had that talent, and he went on to make a really good, career.
Yeah. And he's got a family with 2 young kids, and so I get to see his family last year at nationals and stuff too. So he's in a little bit different situation where, he's 30 now, but he's had kids when he was in his 20s and stuff too. And of course, just has it's his second child, and he's 28 too.
Yeah.
Vanderpool is not even married though, right? Of course, I don't know who's married anymore. Sometimes
they're just partners. Yeah.
Partners. Yeah. So I did see an attractive woman with Matteo afterwards, too. But I'm pretty sure he doesn't have any kids yet. So
I saw a little interview with Matt Stevens walking around, like just talking some about the race, and I'm warming up a little more to Matteo Vanderpool. It's funny. Some of the like Chris Horner calls him Matthew, and I think someone else calls him Matthew. They don't go for the Matteo, but then Chris Horner will call someone else by like more their whatever European name. So but he's definitely more reserved, I guess, maybe Matteo Vanderpool. He's got the skill to be able to put in that really hard dig at the right time to make the separation to win the big races. So he's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. And the tactical prowess. I mean, he knows, the intellectual part of it too, that this is the right moment and stuff too. And he's definitely made mistakes before too, but he's also, had a lot of success from those moves. So
I never saw it, but I just heard about the Amstel Gold Race where he was pretty far behind, and he tacked from way out to catch up to just.
Well, they bridged. So
yeah,
I think he actually brought a group up.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just solo, but yeah, he brought a group up. They caught him within the last 2K or something like that, and then he sprinted to the win. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing wins that he's had. I mean, unfortunately, we didn't get to see the final battle with him and Wout van Aert at Paris-Roubaix because, flatted, but
yeah.
And then we see, like at Flanders, that he wasn't quite up to hold Tadej Pogacar's wheel. So, but then he won. But Milan San Remo was amazing. He played that one just perfectly. That one, and I think tactically that race and this World Championship were just spot on for him to win the way he did. Yeah. And then he slides out. Fortunately, nothing broke on his bike, because if something had broke on his bike, because his shoe broke, his shoe thing, but.
Yeah, if there was radios, that might have been a little bit different in that situation, because if they knew he was down, it sounds like the chase group was kind of settling for silver at that point. And probably if they would have heard maybe he'd down, because he was less than 30 seconds at that point.
Right. And I kind of heard something like from people around me, like he had gone down, but then he came up the road still in front and there was still a gap. So I was like,
I was wondering how he could stand up still with his shoe being kind of loose, that he will still stand up. He said he couldn't put as much power on that.
I think his cleat was broken some there too. But
yeah, they said his cleat was broken too.
Yeah.
But he was powering still pretty hard up the climb each time, even.
Oh yeah, he put more time in then too, but those guys were racing for a second.
Yeah.
I never really saw like where did Wout van Aert, like where did he get his separate?
Yeah.
I never saw that part where he separated from
Pedersen. They didn't have it on TV.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It was hard to follow because there's so many things going on, but yeah.
I remember last year in Australia it was similar too, like that. There was things falling apart and coming together a lot behind Remco. Remco was just off the front, by a lot. And then for such a long time. And then, behind him, it was all these, like people were way behind, then they'd be up front and they'd be like, how'd that person catch on? There was groups reforming. And this one was kind of similar to that. It wasn't like it's a real attrition, you're gone, and we're never going to see you again. But groups were still coming back together, and it was confusing, exciting, but also confusing. And so, when Wout went, I guess they just didn't have a camera on him. And so I never saw a replay of it or anything. And all of a sudden he had, a 10-second gap or so. So,
right. Yeah. And just thinking like watching that Chris Horner does a pretty good, like he does more of a recap too, and then the strategy of the recap. So he kind of like talks about who attacked when or what happened. But he said there was a lot more that he didn't mention. I was like, I watched that. And there was a lot of different things that happened that even he couldn't. But I don't know if I saw a super in-depth analysis of everything that happened, but it was,
I don't know if anybody has that. Right? Yeah, they may not exist.
Yeah. Well, if you can go back and watch, you have to go back and watch really the circuits.
It was hard because I watched back. Yeah, I saw the last, I think 30K, and then I went back and watched some more previous to that, and I think I went back and watched some more previous to that too, because there was stuff happening all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it was fun. I'm glad I went. And sometimes I but it's hard because you want to see what's going on in the action. Like if I had my phone, I don't think I had my VPN or something. I was watching on the train. What was going on, I think. But when I got to the course and it wasn't working or something, I don't know. Maybe it's harder to get a signal, and lots of people are on their phones too. But
sometimes it's
because there were some places like by the finish where you could watch the screen, but I don't know. When I'm there in person, I kind of want to get the whole atmosphere of being in person and not be watching it like you weren't there. So, but yeah, you miss a lot too. So
yeah,
but it's fun to watch it later. Yeah,
watching experience when you're watching the big screen there, and then you watch it live and watch the screen, and even that's. I don't mind the screen being there because it helps you to.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. At Richmond is great, right? Because we were on the hill and we could see the screen just on the other side of the hill too, so you could watch them come across and then watch the rest of the race, watch them come across. So that was a great place to have a screen.
Right. Now I like well, I like finishing circuits, of course, because you're going to see a lot more of the race. I mean,
yeah,
cycling is such a special sport where I could fly there and take a train and get on the course and be right there watching without, having to buy a ticket to the event. So that's something.
World Championships are required to have circuits, and so sometimes they can have the lead in, but they're required to actually have a circuit. So
yeah, I'd be curious what they do for Zurich. Zurich's got a pretty area, and there's some climbs around the lake. There's a huge lake.
Too, so maybe they use something similar to a previous course.
Yeah. They used to have a Zurich one-day race. I remember coming on a trip and I didn't know what was going on, and I saw it later on TV. I was like, I missed it. I went down to the air, like all this stuff was going on. Like, I didn't know it was happening. So yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we might need to.
Yeah, we got cut off.
We got a bike fit I'm doing in a few minutes, and the person could be here.
I didn't even get to talk about our rides today. I hurt my lower back on that trip, like moving bags on the plane, and
oh wow,
yeah, and so it's kind of moved to my groin area in a way. I'm having trouble walking some, but I can still ride fine, which is good.
Sometimes that happens too.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, I feel so good riding, but I can't hardly walk. But I'm supposed to meet my friend Werner next week on a layover, and I take the train and go. Maybe he was suggesting Großglockner in Austria, which is like a 27-kilometer, 1,600 something. Yeah, 4,500 plus, meter climb or feet climb, 1,600 or like 600. Anyway, the big climb, 27-kilometer line. Anyway, but I think I don't know if we can do it because we should start earlier in the day. I think it's one of those mountain places where they have thunderstorms in the afternoon. Don't want to get caught. But anyways, I thought, I need to do some climbing if I got to. So I did a route today that I climbed 4,300 feet in about 40 miles. So
yeah, it's good. It's a good ratio. It's an Asheville ratio.
Yeah. And then I should be riding in between with John, our good friend John Hickox in the Netherlands coming up too. So yeah, and we usually mention a little bit what's going on with our riding, but I know you've got stuff coming up too. But anyway, I want to do the birthdays.
Since the last podcast, I won a race too. I won an Eldorado Crit.
Oh
race.
Yeah, wasn't that in the park in California?
Yeah, California. Yeah.
But was it the series like you were?
It was a race in a series. I used to do the series back in the 1980s and 90s, but first time
you had done it the week before, right?
Yes.
And then you saw, they're doing podiums, so maybe I need to do better so I can get on the podium. And then you won. Yeah, you won. How was it broken down? In which?
Well, three. It was one team that kind of dominates, and so.
I mean, was everybody racing together?
No, it was 40 plus.
40 plus. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But one of the best sprinters though is 60 years old. So I looked back at some of the previous results, and this guy who was 60 years old and won several races, so he's a good sprinter. So we had to get rid of him.
All right, so it's tactics and acumen, and like you said, the one before though, like some people, you were trying to attack, and everybody's following. You get your rainbow. Did you change your jersey so you didn't have anything that had stars and stripes on it?
I even left the number pinned to that jersey and washed it, and then just put it on again. But I think the key was I got into a break with a guy from that team that was dominating, and we got a pretty big lead, and then
no one's chasing because that team's got somebody represented.
So he wasn't going to work. So then the other guy took off. I let him get off, and then I attacked and dropped the guy, and I bridged back up to the other guy, which took a while to do. But then I luckily had a better sprint than he did, so I was able to beat him in the sprint at the end. But then at the end too, actually the 1-2 field caught us, and so it was a little congested just as we're coming to the finish.
Oh no!
So as we're sprinting, the guy sprinted next to the 1-2s, and there wasn't a whole lot of room on the left or the right, but I squeezed between him and the 1-2 field, and luckily he didn't pinch me. He stayed where he was, and I was able to squeeze between the 1-2s and the guy he was with still. So it worked out.
Well, we did mention a little bit earlier, and she is top of the list for birthdays. Kristen Armstrong, 50 years old, of course. Yeah, with multiple time trial. She was really favorite of the time trial. Yes. I mean, So the best
Olympic titles,
and the best placed active rider, which Arceus Samsic, I heard, didn't have any riders racing at the World Championship from their team, but they have a guy. They have who's Oh, it's Arnaud Demar, mid-season transfer. He's done with FTJ. He's going to RKS Samsic. Anyway, winner Anaconda Colombian, which is one of the best names you could have for a bicycle racer. Winner is fourth on the list. So obviously he's had some wins before. A stage at the Vuelta back in 2014. Overall, the Vuelta San Juan International. So yeah, if you're a winner and you're a bike racer, hopefully you do win some races. Which he has. Daniel Lloyd, you saw that? Daniel Lloyd, which I mean, wow, he's like so well known now because he's GCN, face of GCN, and talk about and they mentioned about him racing before, but he did win the overall at the Vuelta Ciclista Internacional Extremadura back in 08. Yeah, he's 43.
Raced a lot in the Middle East and in the Far East, yeah.
He raced in 2011 for Team Garmin Cervelo in 2011.
He talks about that sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he was in Colorado that year. I don't know. I should go back and see.
He's 43 years old, yeah. So he's still really strong too. I think he's the guy that when they do tests, to see who's, they think
he's got a good job, doesn't he?
Yes, but I think one time they had can we beat Dan? And they had like a two-person time trial, 3-person time trial, 4-person time trial, so they finally beat him. So he's still, I think, pretty fit. So
yeah, he looks it. I mean, he's not gaining a lot of weight. So
no.
Ryan Zupko, that's the first U.S. rider besides Kristen I see is 33. It's going to be a quick break. Cody Peterson, 44. Cody Peterson. Lucas Brandt, 17, just 17. Matt Landon, 42. That's all on my list. I didn't even say the date today. Our podcast is 331 of the Warren Cycling Podcast. So pretty soon we're going to get up to 365, right? So you could listen to one each day for a whole year, like to get a whole year's worth. But today's date is the 11th of August. So it's just a couple weeks till the Vuelta starts.
Yeah.
And
a few more days of the World.
The women's. Is Chloe going to race?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. She was targeting it too, the road race.
Well, she's already won a medal on the track, gold individual pursuit, a medal in the time trial. If she can do something in the road race, it'd be pretty amazing. I guess probably pretty successful U.S. Worlds so far, just from her and Jennifer Valente, right?
Yeah. Yeah, with just the women's track and then Chloe on the road.
Yeah.
Well, but Mateo Van der Poel is currently the cross country world champion, or the cyclocross world champion, and the road world champion, and he's doing the mountain bike race on Saturday
with zero to no expectations. So if you have zero and no, there's nothing in between zero and no.
They bumped him up though, so he's not going to be in the last spot. He was going to be second to last start spot in the short track, but he decided not to do the short track.
Right.
Sagan was the last spot, 57th, and I think he finished 37th. But Pidcock started though 20-something in the 20s, I think, and he finished third. So
he crashed out the German.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be in the fifth row for the race.
So bumped to the fifth.
Today's Friday, so that's tomorrow, Saturday. So yeah, good weekend of racing still coming up. If Van der Poel somehow would be up there in the mountain bike, it would be.
So Mariana Vos has done it, and Pavot I think has done it.
Not all in the same year though, have they?
Pavot has for sure. She's been held at the same time, and I think Vos maybe too. So, but no man has before done it the same year. So
I don't think anyone's done both, or even cyclocross and road in 1 year, right? Or two disciplines.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. So it'll be good racing tomorrow with the cross country. A few names that we recognize on the road. Guys.
I thought
it's interesting watching the short track. They were talking about all these guys who are dominating the short track and not heard of them before. So
yeah, I didn't hear a lot of like the U23's individual time trial riders. I thought I would have heard more names, but I guess the really top guys get up to the elites right away, and so you don't hear as much.
Like Tarling, 19 years old.
Just Tarling, 19.
Who is 23 now, so he wouldn't be.
Right, but yeah. We're gonna have to save rider transfers for another podcast. So
yeah, that's not quite as exciting.
No. Although it's funny, I always like to interject, I guess, personal opinions, but you got your bike fit there, Sean Kelly, California.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's coming out or not too, but it's 3:00, so we
all right.
better.
All right. Well, I was just gonna say Lidl Trek. I'm not a fan of the logo. I don't know why. I like the grocery store. I guess I'm gonna start shopping more at Lidl instead of Jumbo, because Jumbo's out after this year. So now I'm gonna do my grocery shopping more at Lidl, support cycling that way. But I'm gonna miss the days. I really like the Trek Segafredo jersey, like especially a couple of years ago. If I would have gotten a pro jersey, that would have been one I would have been interested to have. But that Lidl one, I don't like it. So anyway, okay.
I'm not so stuck on. Some people spend so much time on designs of jerseys and stuff too. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I do like some better than others, but I'm not like I love that one or love that one.
I'm not a fan of the Trinity one either. But next year, Luke Lamperti will be wearing the Soudal Quick Step jersey. So anyway, all right. Well, great talking to you. Have a good bike fit, and we'll catch up to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Dean.
All right, I know.